yesterday I actually was finally able to finish Strange the Dreamer. So definitely enjoyed this the second time around. I think the first time I read this, I wasn't truly grasping everything that was going on. I think I was just trying to read it just to read it. Even though I did give this 5 stars the first time around, I think this time that I read it again, I was able to really visualize, the world and what is going on. But I do remember of how I connected with this book, and I think that's why I gave this 5 stars the first time around, is because I really connected with Laszlo. Like, for example, one of the biggest things is he actually has a crooked nose. And he has a crooked nose because a book fell on top of him. And even though that's not what happened to me, my nose is a little crooked. It's just funny that, I saw it in this book and I really relate to him in that way physically. And another way that I really relate to Laszlo Strange is his love for the city of Weep and his love for the language and studying the culture and just his desire to one day visit this lost city, which is something that has happened to me. Whenever I was young, I was really into Italian culture and Italy, and I just really wanted to go to Italy. And I remember the first time that I was actually able to step foot in Italy, it was just amazing. And so reading about Laszlo and him going to this city for the very first time and seeing how Laini Taylor was able to describe that was just so accurate. And there's this paragraph that I really want to talk about because it is just so beautiful the way she writes about the language, and this is truly how I feel about other languages when I'm learning them, especially Italian. On this paragraph, this is basically where Laszlo is trying to tell Errol Fane how he learned the language. So it says, "Tell me, how did you learn our language?" Haltingly, Laszlo did. I built a key with old trade documents. It was a place to start. Then there were letters, books. What could he say? How could he convey the hours, hundreds of hours, spent bent over ledgers, his eyes swimming in the dim light of a dull glaive, while his mind traced the arabesque and coils of an alphabet that looked like music sounded? How could he explain that it had fit his mind as nothing else ever had, like numbers to a mathematician or air to a flute? He couldn't. He could only say, "It's taken me 7 years." So of course you can guess that this book is an absolute 5 stars for me. I'm so glad that I reread this. Also, I did read The Guest List by Lucy Foley on audiobook, and I would say that her book was entertaining. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I feel like there was a lot of things that I kind of guessed. There was a little bit of a plot twist for me. I tend to not be good at predicting what is going to happen. I am just oblivious to what is going to happen, and the fact that I could kind of see this one coming, it says a lot. So I just wanted to quickly wrap those 2 books up before I start again trying to pick up Ariadne. So I didn't make any progress in this book. I'm still on page 43, chapter 5, and there's a total of 300 pages nearly. Of course, this is the book of the month copy, so the pages don't really add up. They're not as accurate as the original copy. 300 pages. I could probably finish this week. I'm not setting the bar too high, so I will read as much as I can. Right now I do want to start reading just a little bit while I still have daylight, and I will do another checkup hopefully later tonight.
Memories come back to me in a daydream I
It is 2 p.m. I did get a very late start today because last night I don't think I went to sleep until like 3:30 in the morning. I had lots of trouble falling asleep, but I did get some reading done last night, and so I wanted to wrap up some of my thoughts. So I've been reading Ariadne. Last night I got to page 81, so I was able to read nearly 50 pages. I really need to like prioritize this book because I just want to finish it. I want to be able to finish it by the end of this week. And I do have family coming over tomorrow, so I want to get as much reading done as I can today. So the other book that I'm reading, I'm listening to Colleen Hoover's All Your Perfects on audiobook. That one I do get to advance in a lot because of course it's an easy read. And I do listen to it while I'm doing housework, which takes up a lot of time. So my thoughts on All Your Perfects. I am about 6 hours in, and trigger warnings for infidelity and infertility. And those two topics are making me very uncomfy. Saying that is tough, I'm not gonna lie. But I have this little goal where I want to read all of Colleen Hoover's books. So far, my favorite one by her has been Verity. And she was actually at my Barnes& and Noble recently. She's from Texas, and so she was at my Barnes& and Noble, the one in the Woodlands, and she signed a whole bunch of copies. And I remember I saw it in her story at about 6 p.m. And so Barnes& and Noble closed at like 9. And I remember the next day I had to work early in the morning, and so I told my husband to go to Barnes & Noble and pick me a copy, hopefully that they still had some. So I do actually have, I think it's like right there, a signed copy of Verity. Yeah, it is that one right there. So yeah, I have been reading all of her backlist, all of her books that she's written, and this is one of them. So it's not like I'm gonna DNF the book. I'm gonna keep listening to it, and so far it is a 3-star read, and Ariadne is probably a 4-star so far. So I'm gonna get back to reading, gonna make myself a cup of coffee, and I'll get back to you soon. This message is for Colleen Hoover. Colleen, why are you the way that you are? I mean, listen, I have read many of Colleen Hoover's books. I'm not sure how many I have left. I've read Verity, Layla, November 9, Confess, Reminders of Him, It Ends With Us, Heartbones. I mean, and right now I'm reading All Your Perfects. And this book has just been so devastating. I mean, I just want to give the main character a hug. I wish I really could give her a hug. I feel like she really needs it. I feel like her husband really needs it. I want to tell him it's going to be okay. Ugh. Colleen. I believe I have like 2 or 3 hours left. And if I listen on 2 times speed, I'll probably finish it in an hour or so. So I think before I go to bed, I'm gonna read just a little bit more. Yeah, I'm gonna read a few more pages and I'm gonna go to sleep. Good night. Hello friends, I just finished reading part 2 of Ariadne, so I'm on part 3 now. hopefully I can finish this today. I'm gonna try and read the next 100 pages within the next hour, but I don't know. We will see. Oh my god. This man. This man is so disgusting. The audacity. The audacity. Oh my god. So I'm getting ready to close out this reading vlog and talk about all the books that I read. I am very happy with the amount of books that I was able to read. I read 2 physical books and 2 audiobooks. So starting off with the first book that I read for this reading vlog, which was Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This book I did give a 5 out of 5 stars. It was a reread for me, and I have definitely enjoyed it the second time around, as I've mentioned many times before. If you don't know what this book is about, it is an adult fantasy. It takes place in a fantasy world, and the main plot of this story is about Laszlo Strange, who is an orphan and grew up hearing stories about a lost city. So he does become infatuated and falls in love with this lost city and starts learning the language and starts to learn about all the fantasy stories that have been said about this lost city. And it is a city that has been very magical, and so he's basically made fun of because of the stories that he says about this city, and because he does work in a library. He's just a librarian, and there are many academic men who attend the library who make fun of him for that. One day, a man from the lost city comes to Laszlo's city to look for men who could possibly help him with a problem that his city of Weep is suffering. And so Laszlo, he doesn't have much to offer. He doesn't have any areas of expertise besides stories, but he does show his expertise in Weep's language. And so this man, he takes Laszlo to come with him as a personal assistant. So Laszlo is finally given the chance to go to this lost city whose name has been forgotten. And he's just very curious because he knows that the only thing that could have possibly made him forget the city's name has been magic. And so you follow Laszlo along as he travels to this lost city and they find the city's problem. I highly recommend this book. I don't want to say more than that because this book is truly better read if you just don't know anything about it. And hopefully I didn't give away too much. And moving on to the second book that I read during this reading vlog, I did read this as an audiobook, which is All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. And for this book, I want to give a trigger warning for infertility and infidelity. This book hit very close to home, not because I have personally experienced those two things, but because people who are very close to me have experienced it, and I have seen how they have suffered and have gone through such an experience. I do believe that Colleen Hoover did a really good job on talking about infertility, and like I said, I haven't experienced it. I don't know what that feels like, but just reading about it, I think she did it in a very respectful manner, and it really opened my eyes as to, asking people who are newlywed, when are you gonna have kids? And after reading this book, definitely I'm never going to ask that question again. And I definitely do not want to ask any woman, do you have kids yet? Because it is something very real. But the main character and her husband have found a way to really overcome that And that is what made me happy, because after having talking about the main character's depression over her infertility, in the end there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and just them finding their happiness within their own marriage, just them two, was very heartwarming, I've got to say. So All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover, 4 out of 5 stars. So the next book that I read after that one, I picked up another audiobook. I picked up Anatomy, a Love Story by Dana Schwartz. This book was very interesting, very gory, very Mary Shelley, Frankenstein vibes. It was a very gloomy book, and I've got to say, I'm very confused about the title, because the title is Anatomy, a Love Story, yet there really wasn't much of a love story in the book, and the ending is very open to possibly a second book, not sure. But don't go reading this book expecting a love story. Of course, maybe it might be the love of the character for anatomy and for surgery and for becoming a physician. That is a different type of love story, still a love story, but just want to put that out there, that it doesn't really incline to a female-male, human-to-human relationship. It's not that at all, but it was still a very great book. And I did give this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. And lastly, for this vlog, I read Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. And this book I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. This book, I'm not very into Greek mythology, but I loved the feminine power in this book. I'm not really good at explaining, and I'm not very good at analyzing books, but I've got to say that the way men are written in this book is hilarious. There is a good story behind it, being Greek mythology, but the reason why it wasn't a 5 stars for me was because the author included, in my opinion, way too many Greek mythology stories in the story itself. So that kind of lost me sometimes. You know, I was focused on Ariadne and her story, but then all of a sudden there was this other Greek god that was thrown in there. And it did have some connection to Ariadne, but I think it could have flowed better if there just wasn't this random story thrown at you. And the thing about this book that really drew me in was the Minotaur, which is basically Ariadne's half-brother, and it is this half-bull, half-human creature who is living under the palace in a maze, and there are some sacrifices done to this bull. And so I really thought that the story was going to focus more on that, but it was probably like the first quarter of the book. And the rest of the book really focused on Ariadne and her sister Phaedra. And it's actually kind of funny because that aspect of the book where men are incompetent, they're cheaters, they're liars, they're backstabbers, they're traitors. And it's funny because I'm happily married. He's so lovable. I'm so blessed to have him. But while I was reading this book, I was like, ugh, men. So that was the last book I read, Ariadne by Jennifer Saint, 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you for coming along with me on this reading vlog. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you pick up some of these books as well. So I will put in the comment section my Goodreads account if you want to support me and this brand new little channel, and you want to comment on the video and you don't know what to comment. Comment the, what emoji really goes with, ooh, the heart. Yes, if you don't know what to comment and you want to support my channel, comment that heart emoji and I would greatly appreciate it. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.